Okay.
What's up, everybody? So we're on the road to WrestleMania, and we're getting closer and closer to April 8th in New Orleans, which is WrestleMania 34. This Sunday marks the final stop on that road, the WWE Fastlane. So let's trace back the steps on how we got here. If you're a huge WWE fan, as I am, this is essentially playoff season for you, and if there is a playoff season, because actually the WWE runs all year round, but the period between January and April is typically known as WrestleMania season. It is really when things begin to culminate, with WrestleMania being sort of the Super Bowl World Series of the WWE, taking place in late March, April every year. So the road to WrestleMania starts in January with the Royal Rumble, which is an annual event featuring a 30-man over-the-top Royal Rumble match. The Royal Rumble essentially takes two WWE superstars, and then every 90 to 2 minutes, the interval changes year after year. In fact, one year they had it where wrestlers were coming in every 60 seconds. Another WWE superstar enters the ring until all 30 competitors have entered. The winner goes on to get an opportunity to wrestle in the main event at WrestleMania, competing for the world title for the respective brand, or getting to pick to compete for the world title for one of the other brand. WWE has two brands, the Raw brand and the SmackDown brand, both with their own sets of championships. And it essentially is a brand for their two flagship shows. The Royal Rumble was won by Shinsuke Nakamura, who's been with the promotion since 2016 when he came over from New Japan Pro Wrestling. And it essentially is building towards a match fans have wanted to see since 2016, in him getting an opportunity to wrestle against AJ Styles for the WWE heavyweight title. Both Shinsuke and AJ had last competed against each other in New Japan Pro Wrestling at that promotion's version of WrestleMania, Wrestle Kingdom, in January of 2016. Weeks before both men ended up coming to the WWE. They've teased confrontations between the two of them since both guys have been with WWE, but nothing where they've actually had a match against each other. So this would be the first time that they'll actually have a match against one another, and fans are excited for it. It's been something that fans have hoped would be sort of the main event for WrestleMania this year, and hoping that they stay on that course. In the Royal Rumble, it came down to Shinsuke Nakamura and Roman Reigns, and I mean, the great thing about that is these are essentially the two guys that are teased to be in their respective promotions' main event, and I think, you know, a lot of the fans were dreading having Roman win. The fact that Shinsuke won is great, because I mean, since Shinsuke Nakamura has come up to the main roster, he's yet to really do anything to equate to the level of stardom he had in New Japan Pro Wrestling, and even before he came on the main roster in the WWE's development type league in NXT, where he was presented as more of a main event type guy and special attraction. He's yet to really do that on the main roster. So the Royal Rumble win, I think, helps to at least build him up a little bit again, and hopefully build him up as a credible challenger. Although they haven't really done much in terms of building him towards AJ, and it could be because of this Fastlane match. So it remains to be seen what they do once Fastlane is in the books. So the road to WrestleMania involves a couple other events. So this year, on the Raw brand, you had the Elimination Chamber, and typically that involves 6 guys competing. This year it was 7, and what that was to do was to decide who on the Raw brand would get to compete for their title at WrestleMania, given Shinsuke's on SmackDown and competing against AJ on the SmackDown side of things. On the Raw brand, you had Roman Reigns win, which essentially was, I think, the outcome pretty much everyone expected. I mean, Reigns has been the guy that WWE has promoted for the last 4 years as being sort of this era's Hulk Hogan. And, you know, fans aren't necessarily in favor of that. So he'll go on to face the Raw brand's champion, Brock Lesnar, for the title at WrestleMania. And essentially that's the outcome everyone expected. I mean, Roman has been the guy that the WWE has sort of shoved on everyone's throat for the last few years in terms of being this era's top guy, like the Hulk Hogan of this era, if you will, versus having someone the fans have organically taken to. And there's been, several, I think, opportunities for them to go with more organically grown talent, but they've decided to put all their promotion behind Roman, and not to say the guy's bad in the ring. I just think it's just the whole aspect of him somewhat getting shoved down people's throats that has started to alienate some of the fans. So on that side of things, that's essentially the main event, and it's the main event people have come to expect, and actually a match that most fans, I think, come to expect that Roman will win that match, as Brock is rumored to be leaving the WWE to go back to UFC following WrestleMania. And Roman's been the guy the last few WrestleManias that has just come out on top. So back at WrestleMania 32, he defeated Triple H for the WWE title. Last year in Orlando, he gave The Undertaker his only second WrestleMania loss. Teasing potentially that The Undertaker's retired. More on that in a second. And then this year, building up to fighting Brock. It's actually the second time they've competed at WrestleMania. They last competed at WrestleMania 31. And fans at that time thought that Roman was going to take the title. And then we were swerved where Seth Rollins came in cashing in his Money in the Bank contract and taking the belt. And I think leaving us all happy at the end of the night that had happened. On the SmackDown side of things, you have the Fastlane pay-per-view, which actually takes place this weekend. And Fastlane, somewhat teasing that match with Nakamura might not happen, as Styles is actually defending his title in a multi-man match. Involved in that match, one of the competitors is John Cena, who is also in the Chamber match. So Cena's, at this point in his career, is somewhat promoted as a special attraction, where he's got free agent status. So essentially, he can choose which brand he gets to appear on. So he competed in the Chamber, and the storyline with Cena has been that he is attempting to find his road to WrestleMania because, he feels that at this point in his career, it's not a guarantee that he'll be on the show. I think somewhat consistent with the way he's been promoting in the last few years, where he hasn't been the main event, but he's been in, special matches. So, he didn't win the Chamber. So, in an attempt to still get on the WrestleMania card, now he's competing in this Fastlane match. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that AJ ends up still retaining the belt, so we keep that one-on-one match with him versus Nakamura. And then with Cena, there's been rumor that they're essentially building up to a match against him versus The Undertaker. And they sort of teased that a few weeks ago, where Cena came out and said how he wanted to challenge The Undertaker, but then went on to say, well, that match is impossible. The fans' reaction was just off the charts. WWE has been really teasing that match is not going to happen, and in reality it is. If you watched the match with Undertaker and Roman Reigns last year, it's pretty believable to say that Undertaker's career is over. It was actually sad to see Undertaker compete in obvious pain. I think he's been in need of hip replacement surgery, and he was presented sort of like being on his last legs, and even like the whole post match where he left his hat, coat, and gloves in the ring seemed to indicate that he was stepping away from the Undertaker character, but it remains to be seen. There's another rumor that Cena would go on to face Rey Mysterio, who made a special appearance at the Royal Rumble this year. However, Mysterio has since, ended up getting a bicep tear, so he's essentially out of any WrestleMania plans, which is unfortunate. The thing with the two events, I say Elimination Chamber and Fastlane, is it essentially somewhat dilutes the product, in the sense that, you had the Royal Rumble winner in the past go on, guaranteed match at WrestleMania. Now you've got all these events that happen in between, and it's somewhat the nature of instant gratification and the way many things are presented today, where you just can't have a storyline draw out for several months. And I think the WWE likes to kind of consistently attempt to swerve the fans into thinking, no, well, the match that you think or thought was going to happen as of last summer may not happen. So basically, you've got all these events that happen in between to attempt to swerve the fans. You know, I'm hoping for the most part they do stay on course. I would love to see the Shinsuke AJ match, as would many fans, and I think it would actually be a great way to compete with some of the in-ring product that we've seen over in New Japan with their WrestleMania equivalent, Wrestle Kingdom, over the last few years, where those cards and those events are pretty much essentially 100% built around the in-ring product, and the out-of-ring storylines take play a lesser role. Looking forward to Fastlane. I mean, some of my predictions is, you know, I think I'm fingers crossed hoping AJ Styles comes out with the title. I'm also predicting that if that Undertaker Cena match is going to happen, there's going to be some, I think, involvement or some sort of presence by the Undertaker on Sunday. Like, I think at this point, I mean, we're only about 3 weeks out. They've got to do something to start to build that match. I mean, you know, the fact that they're building this up with 3 weeks, I think is somewhat disappointing. But I mean, that could quickly, I mean, if they do a good enough job this Sunday, I think people will quickly forget the fact that they've taken so long to get to this point. But anyway, I'm looking forward to the show. We'll see what happens. If you're watching the show, enjoy. Like, comment, and subscribe below. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay.
I be in my zone.